person needs to be passionate about their work, not just the job, not just, answer for the sake of answering the moment and having the person go away because they answered the way they thought you wanted to hear it. So how to assess the person would definitely be for experience, trustworthiness, how did they communicate to their town what they were doing, how did it all work out for them in the past, what was their tax rate at the town that they came from. So that would be that. I think for the interim director, I'm echoing the other people too, that would not be my goal to have an interim director, but if in fact we did have an interim director, it would be based on making a decision based on what you know at the time, and at that time, several months from now when Carol leaves, if we have to do that, then it probably will be the best thing. Being an elected official, one of us or one of the 9 people on the town council will have the ability to be the interim director for 90 days. It's in our charter. I may be able to help out in that situation when it comes. I'll be able to take a leave of absence from my job. But again, it's one of those things that I'm not here for personal agenda. I'm only here to help the full benefit of the town of Hooksett.
Thank you, Nancy. Michael.
I have a different approach to the town administrator's position. First of all, we all agree the absence of the town administrator has to be strong, flexible, open-minded. But I'm not so sure that we need to pull from the people who are managers now. There are a whole bunch of occupations out there where people are managers and they can run a town like they run a company. A good example is Todd. I think Todd is a fine person and would make a good town administrator. You don't have to pick an administrator from another town to be our town administrator. So going to the newspaper, going to MRI, going to those sources is not, I don't think is the answer. We have a human resource person, and it's her job to go out there and find us a town administrator. She can put an ad in the paper, she can get resumes, she can use her influence with other human resource people, and she can find candidates for the town administrator's job. And that saves us money. That's my approach. For an interim town manager, we have 2 wonderful candidates right down here at Town Hall. We have Christine, Finance, and we have Elizabeth over in Human Resources. They can take over that job. Elizabeth's done it already once before. In time of an emergency, she took over the town administrator job, so she knows what to do. She can sit in that job with Christine's support or vice versa, and we can save some more money rather than have someone come in who doesn't know the town, who doesn't know the people, doesn't know the departments, doesn't know the finances, and have them sit there and try to learn that in 90 days. So I have a different approach to finding a town administrator, and I think my approach would probably save us a lot more money than giving our money to a company to find another administrator.
Thank you, Michael. Yeah. The duties of the town administrator are prescribed right within the body of the charter. So those are the things they must adhere to. We need to find someone who has a proven record, who has shown the ability to understand the state RSAs, the proper rules of procedures and processes. I think that's important. We need to have someone who shows an enthusiasm for their job and who can instill a confidence and provide very sound advice to the council. Unfortunately, a previous town administrator eliminated the previous process of where we had an assistant administrator. And Michael did indicate that Liz Dinwiddie did serve very admirably in some, during the 90s as a fill-in. So there was no void of understanding of what was going on in the town. As Nancy says, the charter does allow a 90-day ability for a seated counselor to serve. Part of the problem with that could be is we certainly would find a wonderful counselor to fill that role, but that would eliminate 9 counselors. It would be an 8 board, so that could create an issue. So, and whether we go with MRI or local government center or go beyond the scope, as Michael indicated, we need to have someone who knows what they're doing. And I think Jim also indicated that whoever that fill-in is, if the council decides to do that, I think they should only be allowed to fill in because that provides them a one-upmanship on other potential candidates because they have seen how those people have worked.
Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Bill.
Picking an administrator is no easy job, and you can either go expensive, like we did once. We spent $10,000. We had 80 people, candidates, narrowed it down to 20, down to 5, down to 1, and at the last minute, we went into executive. Found out that person was not qualified, and I can't tell you what happened, but they didn't get elected, and everybody was 100% for that person. That person was in North Carolina and was a preacher on top of it. Not a good idea to hire somebody or use anybody that's in the present administration right now. And if I'm on the council, I would try to get rid of LGC, which I tried to get rid of before. It's a total waste of taxpayer money. And MRI is another incongruous organization that has melded itself into the town and is part of the problems that we have. I won't get into that. References are worthless because anyone in this town that's left town, if you call up for a reference, what you got to do is they'll always get a good reference. You got to say, are you willing to hire this person again? That's the question you got to ask, and that means any town in the country, not just Hooksett. And the best way to get an interim person in is for the council to appoint one of the people on the council because you all know each other and you know who would be better fit to handle the administrative position in the absence of having one. And there are a lot of brilliant people in New Hampshire that would be, you need a New Hampshire person is what you need because New Hampshire is a very unique state and it takes a certain type of person that knows the state of New Hampshire. They don't necessarily have to know the town of Hooksett to do the job properly. And the council can make the decision once they have their candidates set up.
Thank you, Joe. Everybody still hearing okay? Everybody still listening?
Mostly.
Todd, up to you.
I've hired a considerable number of people and executives as well. Process, education, experience, references, that all goes, you have to go through that order. I agree with Phil in regards to MRI. I've looked at that organization. I don't particularly like an organization which advocates aggressively for a specific set of candidates that are within their, I'll use a baseball terminology here, farm league. And then also you pay them a fee, but then they also get a dig off of their salary. That's a little bit questionable. There's a lot of different recruitment outfits that we could be leveraged. I am in agreement that you kind of need to look outside of that pool. But you know what? There's a lot of younger, or I should maybe the age is not the issue, but there's people that are one step below the town administrator that are in a lot of these municipalities that are looking for an opportunity and they're go-getters. And usually what you can find is that they have a pretty good track record within the newspapers and such, and they are a little bit higher visibility. One of the things I always ask my candidates is, what's your biggest failure? Typically when you get that person and you ask them what the biggest failure is, and you say failure, and you make them answer that question, immediately you can see how their body movement is. You can understand if there's someone who shies away, or who ultimately becomes a martyr, that's what I usually call them. They don't step up. Those types of people, and this goes back to the references. If someone only gives you a few references, that's a bad indication. If they give you a long set of references, that's a better indication. Because most likely they surround themselves with people what I call truth tellers. The people they surround themselves that will tell them the truth when they're doing something not quite right or something. And that's really what you look for in a candidate. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
Thank you. So, great ideas. Look forward to all of you helping us choose a good town administrator. I do think it's important that we do find a town administrator with people skills. We have had our town administrator that has RSA, and it is important that they know the RSAs and they know how New Hampshire government works. But we also know we have a lot going on in this town where people skills and public relations is needed. We need to continue to build up this town. And in searching for that town administrator, I think we need to find somebody who wants to be in Hooksett. We need to bring somebody and sell Hooksett for the town it is. There are problems in Hooksett. We're in the newspaper all the time, and it's always bad, it seems. But at the same time, Hooksett is a great town. We have economic opportunities that other towns would die for. We have 4 exits onto major highways. We have commercial property that is available, and we have a lot of growth in this town. And I think we do need to find that go-getter, that person who wants the challenge of making Hooksett the town it can be, and not the person who is going to shy away. I think it's ultimately responsible that we have somebody who is a professional, somebody who knows what it's like out in the real world as well as what it's like in municipalities. They are 2 different worlds, but they do have a lot of things in common. And if you can run a business good, then you know how to save money. And if you can run a town good, it means you know how to work with people and listen to the people of the town and do what's right for the town. Thank you.
Thank you. Another multiple part question, and I'm going to break sequence here because the answer, your answers, probably will be highly dependent on whether you're a seated councilor now or a candidate. What is your overall view of the town charter changes contained in Articles 21, 22, 23, 24, and 25 of the town warrant? Second part, which do you support and why? Third part, which do you oppose and why? Fourth part, is there a process more appropriate than the one spelled out in the charter to develop future changes? Do I need to repeat any?
The numbers have been,
The articles?
yes.
21 through 25. Everybody ready? Jim Levesque, you're up.
I have volunteer book. I'm not prepared for that. I left my book at home, so it's let me borrow yours. All right, thank you.
I'm going to stop the clock for a minute. The question is merely, not specific,
Yeah.
in the first part. It's your overall view of all of the changes being submitted, and what your view is of that. And then the second and third parts merely ask, which ones do you support, which ones do you not support?
We have to know which ones they are. Not amendment.
Pick a number. That was facetious.
It's just 21 and 28, that's all.
21, that's 21 to 45.
I'll go. I'm ready.
I'm going with the 3 seated councilors first, and Jim is the next one anyway, so you can start there.
Being on the town charter review committee, we had a lot of different housekeeping matters, and I believe the 21 through 25 are mostly those. Plus, we had quite a few other ones we came up with that we thought were good ideas, but we got shot down. I support all these changes because, as I say, I think they were mostly housekeeping ones, especially number 25. And we found a lot of inconsistencies in the charter when we did it. It was referring, for example, the way things were, the town administrator would take care of things, and the overview of the town council would override some of her decisions. It gave more, I'd say, defined definition of how we would do that. And I think most of these were ones that we supported, and I support them.
Thank you. Michael? Michael, not Mike.
Well, you kind of get me at a loss here. I didn't study these by heart. But I can tell you that I was in favor of all the changes that were mentioned here in all the articles. And as Jim says, some of those changes were for housekeeping purposes. I really don't know if that question is fair, because we all voted as a council, and we're all kind of like 9-0 on those. So, but I was in favor of all the articles and all the changes in the charter. I believe change is good, and things that are made 10 years ago, not necessarily are good 10 years later. So if you don't change things, you don't stay on top of change, things get stale and you get into trouble, as it happened before. So that's all I can say of the town charter and the amendments.
Thank you, Michael. Nancy?
So, of the ones that have been placed on the warrant, I do support them all. One of the main reasons I support them all is because as a council, I know we read over every one of them. We made changes where we did not like them, and we came to an agreement amongst us to the changes that we did approve of. There were many changes suggested that we did put on, and we did not get rid of, we put on the table, and I think that tells you what I think does need to happen, and the process I'd like to see is to hear from all the town people, including you, about what you think of the changes suggested. I know my opinion, but again, I'm not here to represent myself, I'm here to represent the town. In particular, we've got the tax collector, and some of the things we did ask did need to happen because they either went against, a procedure as set by the state. The one I really felt that really needed to be looked over, and I support completely, was the one about the personnel and the disciplinary procedures. As we know, the town has had issues in the past about how the town council did get involved, and we did clear up some of the proper protocol to go through for disciplinary procedures of personnel of the town. The other one that I did approve, and we made quite a lot of changes to, is it was suggested that maybe only to post the articles on the webpage and not to require them to be posted in the newspaper, even partially. We did change that back so that approved articles are both in the newspaper and completely on the webpage. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike?
Well, I was not involved, obviously, in the drafting of these, but in attending the deliberative session and looking at them, it does appear that, in particular, Article 25 is a housekeeping article, meaning that, there were parentheses added, there was the time enumerated more clearly, so obviously in favor of that. The remaining articles, the council did put them forth. Some of the way they're written can be difficult to read. They could be more clearly spelled out. But again, I wasn't privy to those conversations or how that was handled. So I would hesitate to pass judgment on what was done. Like the incumbent councilors, I am in favor of change, but one thing I am not in favor of is change just for the sake of change. there needs to be clear definition and delineation of why these changes occur. And I would defer to my seated counselors and say that, given the way that these votes went, they were 9-0, that they were discussed and communicated, and I just wish perhaps they were written a little bit more clearly. In terms of warrant articles, are we talking about other warrant articles, for instance, like the traffic study, things like that? Okay. Well, again, I'd cede my time at this point.
Thank you, Mike. Nancy?
When I attended the town council meeting for the public hearing for the warrant article changes, I was taken back completely. It seemed to me that the proper procedure had not been followed. The town administrator was basically giving the changes that she authored and asking the town council to vote on it. There was procedure that should have been followed, and that would have taken into account the 13 people that spoke that night, who were experienced, who were people who helped write the charter in the first place. So I was opposed completely to all of these being put in this particular round of warrant articles because there wasn't enough due process against each one. And we're talking about our charter here. We're talking about something that helps us as our base and foundation of our town. And again, I was taken back completely. I'm a person of procedure, a person of slow things down and make proper decisions as you move forward. I was very glad to hear that the town council did table a few of the different warrant articles, but again, when you're taking a direction from the town administrator to just change your town charter without listening and hearing from the public, and it took a long time for the original charter to be made, I would assume it should take us a longer time than one town council public hearing and meeting to go over all the changes and say yes on number 1, 5, and 10, and 45 and 32 and all that. I was so taken back by that night and displeased by the way that it was handled from the get-go, and very happy that those were tabled.
Thank you, Nancy. Jim?
I was one of those individuals who actually volunteered to sign up to help review the charter. There's 2 councilors, myself and another gentleman, Turk Barham. The request for that was clearly brought, the charge was provided to us by the council. We adhered to the council and we followed the charge. The process in which we followed, we met their deadline as prescribed by them. We did diligently reviewed the charter as we were given, and I in favor of every single one of them. But the problem is that the way they're placed in the ballot, they're chunked into groups. So if you like one and you don't like the other, you have to vote no, and you get rid of all the good ones. That's the problem, and that's how the council decided to place it in there. And I think that was a failure on their part. The process was prescribed by the council. All we did as a charter committee is do what we were supposed to, and came up with very good reason. I could go through each one of those and explain why the charter commission believed they were good and bad. But you can't do that because you have 10, and I'm not sure I don't even know how many are in each group, but they're all placed together. And that's not going to do any good because you can't throw out the good with the bad. And I don't think they're all bad, but it should be up to the individual citizens to say, I like this particular one, I don't like this particular one. I'm in favor of all those, but I wouldn't have placed it in that form on the ballot.
Thank you, Jim. Bill?
I was on the Charter Review Committee, I don't know what year, 2004, I believe, and these modifications on here, these articles, they look good, but the original charter was put together by an astute group and some very skilled lawyers and attorneys, and it looks like some attorneys were involved in putting together the language here, and I don't know I don't know who put all this language together. All I can tell you is that one of the people that was on the subcommittee that I was on, Don Duford, is no longer with us. Without the bookwork that he has, it's almost futile to work on the charter, because what he has is about a foot thick, and I was never able to locate the information, because he still has it, because the charter moves like a river. It moves with the times and flows. And you have to do a lot of work, and we redistricted some of the parts of Hooksett, and we almost got into a gerrymandering situation. You have to be very careful. Every word that's in the charter has to be watched and screened out and hashed out, and it takes actually literally months to change anything and everything in the charter. And I don't know how long it took them to put this together, but it doesn't look like there was enough work put into it to put this many questions. I mean, I can see maybe one modification in the charter. It would take, I think it'd take 3 years of study just to get this, what's here. I can't say that I agree with what's here, but I was on the subcommittee, and it was very difficult work. Everything in that charter was set up in the beginning the way it's set up, and it shouldn't be touched unless it's absolutely necessary.
Thank you, Phil. Todd?
I went through and I reviewed the charter amendments. The group that was tasked to do it definitely brought forward some ideas, and I'm not really certain I agree with Nancy. Something transpired between their hard work and it getting to the town council. If you look at this, the idea that Jim was talking about chunked together, it kind of reminds me of Congress, down in D.C. The idea that you can have this budget piece, but guess what? You need to throw this in there too. So it's kind of like a poison pill kind of situation. Here's my feeling on this. I looked at 22 and 23. 22 specifically has some verbiage in there in regards to how citizens can come forth with a petition. And one of the things they're doing is they're throwing in there that you need 2% of registered voters. Just recently, I mean very recently, within the last month, I read a legal review from the town attorney, Buckley, which indicated that anytime you have a conflict, and one of the things he specifically cited was 39.3, that about petition warrants, if the charter conflicts with the state RSA, you have to default to the RSA. Well, guess what? You're going to be voting on something that conflicts with the state RSA, 39.3. So my feeling is I would not vote for 22. 23 is a very interesting thing. It's embedded in there. It talks about the discipline issues, and I agree, there's a lot of stuff in there that's very important about discipline and firing and terminating and stuff like that. But what it also does is it puts a little caveat in there, and I'm not really certain about it, and I don't think I'm going to vote for it. And that is, it raises the bar it requires the town council to have a supermajority to overturn the town administrator. My belief is that you shouldn't have a supermajority, because what it does is that it makes the town administrator have to justify more in front of the town council. So that's my position. Thank you.
Thank you, Todd. Bob?
Yeah, the articles as they appear are somewhat confusing because of the mashing together of some various concepts. My experience with the Charter Review Committee was I went to a town meeting one night and I found out that one of these things did exist. And one of my other jobs in the town is I am a supervisor of the checklist. And in that supervisor of the checklist, there was a change in my job description. And nobody had ever called up and asked us about it, want to know an opinion. You just assume that this is the way we want it. So from that point, I got very skeptical of the warrant articles that deal with the charter. And especially when we talk about disciplinary, what it does is to go to a supermajority, it means that the town administrator is more powerful than a majority of the town council. And I don't think that's fair. I don't think that's right. I think if the town council comes up with a majority and they want to reverse a town administrator's decision, that ought to happen. So, it was mentioned that we don't want to pass judgment on these articles. Well, on May 10th, judgment will be passed on these articles. And I would suppose that a lot of them are not going to make it, especially things that are considered housekeeping or just minor things. overall, a lot of these things seem to supplant the town council with the town administrator in the wording of the regulations. So it's like a consolidation of power towards the town administrator.
Thank you. I'm going to depart just a bit. I'm going to shorten the time limit. There are 3 questions that we've pre-prepared that are fairly germane. But I want to take the time now to see if anybody in the audience has a question that they want to ask. Okay? Got 3 questions. There are 9 of you, so we're going to drop it to a minute to get all 3 asked and answered. And then we'll run over just maybe a couple minutes. Everybody okay with that? You okay with that?
Yeah.
Next question. Should the police commission be maintained and why? We're going to start with Mike.
Wow. Right into the fire, huh? All right, here we go. I believe that the police commission should be maintained. It's my thought that we have a police commission as currently constituted that is doing what they are tasked to do and what the charter requires of them. So my only source of information is what I read in the paper, and I don't necessarily believe everything I read. I need to see some of it with my own eyes, and my thought is the police commission needs to be allowed to continue their work and look at all aspects of the police department, whether it's the chief or the loss of personnel, any of the budget, any of those things. I believe the police commission should continue to do what they're tasked to do. So that's my position.
Thank you, Mike. Nancy.
I support the police commission 110%, and I do have a source of experience working with the folks who are at the commission now. As a budget committee member, I recall hearing a rumor that the police department was coming in with a 33% increased budget when the town council had actually mandated a -1% decreased budget, and I found that to be very arrogant of our police department. And when Mrs. McHugh came and submitted the budget to the budget committee, she said she had to sharpen her pencil 5 times. I don't know about you folks, but I hardly have time to sharpen my pencil once and do something once. Forget about doing it twice. So they should be commended on the work that they did, and they should be allowed support and could continue the work that they are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Michael.
I definitely support the police commission. Since Joanne and Clark Rowling have been appointed to the police commission, we've seen the budget be reined in. We've seen expenditures of funds under control. We've seen the personnel problem we had starting to slow down. They are checking on policies and procedures. And I think that the police commission deserves to be there for at least a year before anyone makes a determination that we should eliminate a police commission. If you put the police department in the hands of a council of 9 individual people, it's going to be 9 different voices of opinion trying to get the police department to be a police department. 9 people have a different opinion, a different idea on how to do something. The police commission should be maintained until it is shown that they are wrong in the way they're doing things down at the police department.
Thank you, Michael. Jim.
Yes, the commission needs to remain. Moving into the council at that point, based on, unfortunately, the performance collectively of the council, if they can't get their house in order, certainly they can't get questions about whether the commission they can do a better job than the commissioners. A board is only as good as the members, and I know all 3 members, they all work hard, and I think they all do a good job. They don't always agree, and that's good. When the problem is, when the school board started getting, the school district started getting too big, we went to an option of 5 commissioners, 5 school board members. The library went from 3 to 5 library. So I think the other thing we should do is maintain the commission, increase it to 5, Because you now you have 5 people, it's increasing more involvement, and they follow through on the audit, which they have committed to do. And I think they're on the right track.
Thank you, Jim. Bill?
Well, my stance on the Hooksett Police Commission is it's out of my realm of thinking because it's a separately run vehicle. The town council, it's like a non-interference comes into play, but I will say I've attended some of the meetings in the past, and my opinion, and it depends on what meeting you go to, it's a dog and pony show. And I won't get into any logistics or details, but when you have the unions are involved in this. You have to analyze who's on the commission and what the real purposes are for what they're really doing. And when you really get into it, you'll find the unions are behind a lot of things that are going on in this town.
Thank you, Bill. Rod?
My position is, since the placement of Clark Rowland and Joanne McHugh, what you've seen with Commissioner Roy is that a balancing took place. One of the things I look at, once again, as being an administrator, what I look at is what I call human capital. If I have an engineer that I trained up and I lose him, I've lost a lot of money. It's one of the things I try to emphasize when I talk to the chief is, we talk about people turning over. Well, I've had manufacturing facilities, and if I all of a sudden had every single one of my workers on the production line turn over, guess what? I'd be out of business. So from that perspective, what's happened with Clark Rowley and Joy McHugh joining with Commissioner Roy, it's balanced out, and they've basically stabilized the exodus of personnel, and then they've instituted financial restraints in there as well. So I think they're doing a good job, and they should continue on.
Thank you. Thank you, Todd. Nancy?
Thank you. So, my gut feeling is yes, the police commission should stay. And the reason I feel that way is because I have not been convinced otherwise. I have not had anybody come up and be able to specifically define for me what the police commission is doing wrong and how Hooksett will benefit from eliminating the police commission. At the same time, I worry that by eliminating the police commission, we will eliminate some of the transparency that we have in the town. With the commission currently meeting and townspeople being able to attend those meetings, I wonder what those would be replaced with. I think most important is that the council does not decide whether or not this should go on the warrant article. I think it's only appropriate for it to be placed on the article by the people. If the town council puts it on the article, it is us asking for more power, and that is not appropriate. Sorry, thank you.
My answer is really quite simple. I mean, to get rid of the police commission, you'd have to go through a charter change. And really, we have, and I'm only saying this from an outsider looking in, a personality issue, a personnel issue. I mean, would you change the Constitution of the United States every time you didn't like somebody? Or somebody didn't get along with somebody? So I'd say, don't get rid of the police commission. It should stay as it is. I think they were doing a great job.
Thank you. Yeah.
The police commission was created back in the early 70s, I think 1975, by a special state legislature. And that was because there was only 3 selectmen at the time, and they wanted to keep the politics out of the police department. I feel bad that the warrant article was taken off the ballot, because I thought it was up to the people to decide whether we keep the police commission or not. But with that warrant article off the ballot now, we have the police commission. And they have decided to do an audit, and I hope that audit is done to the police department and the police commission as a whole, and we'll wait to see what the sheriff's department or whoever organization they hire to do this, what the result is and what the report is, and it should be made public. And then we can all decide. Thank you.
Thank you, Jay. Next question. What actions will you take as counselor to establish and maintain trust and credibility with your constituents and with all Hooksett residents? Second part of that question is merely explain what transparency means to you. Okay, we've got 1 minute. Nancy?
Well, I certainly will have an open door, email, phone, whatever, for people to contact me. I will promise to do my due diligence on every article or every project that we're working on. I have the time. My children are grown and gone now, basically. Transparency to me is communication. Just make sure everybody who wants to know knows what's going on from all angles. Don't keep anything quiet. Don't keep anything hush-hush. It's always let everybody know. They may not agree, they may disagree, but that's okay. Let everybody know what's going on. That's what I think transparency is.
Thank you, Nancy. Michael?
The biggest thing I think is information to the people. I'll say it again, whenever I get a phone call, whenever someone stops me in the street or wants to know information, I give them all the information I possibly could. If I cannot find that information, I go and find it for them, or I tell them where to go. Some things that we learn in our public cannot be discussed, and how they make the newspaper or how to get out in the street, I don't know. But there are certain subjects and topics that we cannot discuss with constituents. Transparency to me means to be honest with the people we represent, and to be available to them whenever possible. And I don't mean 2 o'clock in the morning, but 7, 8 o'clock at night is available. So that's transparency.
Yeah.
I would continue on with what I've been doing since I started in 1990, actually 1990, when I started serving. Someone asks a question, I give them an answer. Make sure that the charter, the RSAs, the right to know laws are being adhered to. And back in the 90s, one of my suggestions was create a newsletter, and we did do that, and over time it did stop, so we're providing more information. The new town website is a great tool, pursuing the public access, which was not my idea, but I support 100%, and I think just making sure the rules and procedures are following, and running a good town council meeting, and explaining why you say you want something, and why you don't want something.
Thank you, Jim. Bill?
As a councilor that's seated, when you're seated, the smartest thing to do is to ask as many questions as you can, and to be open with the questions that you ask different people that are appearing before you at every council meeting. You have a lot of different things going on, and you have to ask a lot of questions. And all the questions I always ask are to protect the taxpayers and to save money. That would be my trust with the constituent, and being as transparent as I can, any questions that they call up or ask, or try to find out information on. If the information is not anything that's in non-public, then I'll give them any answer I can give them as to the questions that they're asking.
Thank you, Bill.
I guess it was basic, so listen to your constituents. But on the trust side is make good decisions. Make decisions based on fact, not rhetoric, and also provide the citizens many opportunities to enter the decision-making process at the beginning and middle and end, to give as many opportunities as possible. In regards to my definition of transparency is, as a town councilor, is to always come forward and provide all the information, and not to strategically withhold information, but provide it in as clear as possible. And as I agree with Phil, you should come prepared and ask as many questions as possible to really understand the decision that you're going to make. Thank you.
Thank you. Nancy?
Well, I will continue to do what I've been doing. I will listen to the facts. I will ask the questions when I don't understand the facts. I will admit I was wrong when I was wrong. And more than anything else, I will wait to make any decision until I've heard all the facts. I will seek out facts at the council meetings. I will not try to encourage discussions outside of council meetings and make decisions before coming. I will make my decisions based on the facts presented at the meetings. I will be able to speak to why I made that decision, and I will continue to speak so that you know why I made the decision. Thank you.
Bob?
Well, trust and accountability, I think can only be obvious to the voter when they see the council behaving in such a way. I know personally, if I was elected to the council, I would be wanting to hold meetings with my constituents, email, telephone calls, responding to those things. I think somewhere along the line, the town has lost a disconnect with the council because, we're only allowed to input stuff during public input, and sometimes there's response back if you happen to have the council's ear, and sometimes there's no response back if you don't have the council's ear. So I think maybe every once in a while, maybe we should have a session where the town can come in and talk to us and give us feedback, and we can give more of a dialogue than just a public input type session.
Thank you, Bob. Jim?
The truth. Any of my constituents call me, I give them, if I don't have the answer, I'll find it for them and get back to them. Might not be what they want to hear, but I'll get back to them an accurate answer. And I'm open to anybody, whether they're in my district or not, to answer their questions. As far as transparency, everybody likes to use the word, but there's no better transparency than coming to the meetings yourself and sitting there and watch what's going on. I'm for transcript type minutes, and I'm in favor of a local TV network. But as far as, providing those two avenues for people, there's nothing like coming to the meeting and seeing what's going on. And when we go into a non-public session, people have to trust us that we talk about the issue that we went into session for, and we've never deviated from that as a council. Thank you.
Thank you, Jim. Mike?
Thanks. Well, trust, it's, never forgetting whom we serve as council, and that's all of you. And I alluded to it in my earlier statement about never wondering why a decision was made. It is my goal that you will never question a decision that you see my name next to. You'll know that it was with your best interests at heart that I made that decision. And by making that decision, I came to the meeting prepared and done my homework, came with the appropriate materials, and addressed those concerns. Transparency, again, I agree with Councilor here talking about that it's a word that gets thrown around quite a bit, but we need to be more open. Forums like this, for instance, I think would be very helpful and have discussion among the people and the council as well. Thank you.
Thank you. Last question. I bet you're all waiting for this one to be over. How will you assess risk associated with town decisions, operations, and expenditures? How will you assess risk associated with town decisions, operations, and expenditures? Who's up?
I am.
Yes, you are, Mike.
I don't know if there's, I think there's an easy answer to this one. If it's not good for the town, and it's not good for the taxpayers, and it's not good for us at all, I wouldn't associate any risk against the town of Hooksett. If we spend money that we don't have, it puts us in the hole. If we don't take care of the kids, the children about town, with parks and recreations, it leads to other things. If we don't protect the town with fire and police, we're in trouble. Just as the negative news has been going on for the last 2 years, will always be in the newspaper. So do I assign risk to something? Not for the good of the town or the people. I would not do that.
Thank you, Michael. Jim?
Well, before a decision is made, council or councilors must ask prudent questions. They must demand well thought out and well-researched answers. They must make sure that the proper rules of due process, RSAs, the right to know, and the state statutes, as well as the charter, are being adhered to. And make sure, as I said, that there's a need to benefit Hooksett, not necessarily a want. Needs must take precedence over wants, and making sure all the questions are being answered and take the right amount of time before you have to rush into last-minute decisions, and making sure all contingencies are being addressed by all boards involved outside of the council's control.
Thank you, Jim. Bill?
Risk associated with the town and the money and the expenditures, I almost don't even know how to explain that. All I can say is that the money that the town of Hooksett wasted in the last 10 years, we could have built a brand new modern state-of-the-art safety complex, I can say that. If you look at the police, ask yourself the question, why does every policeman that leaves law enforcement in Hooksett get a better job somewhere else and a higher job somewhere else? There must have been something good at the Hooksett Police Department that they could get a good job somewhere else. The money that the town is spending and using is all concentrated in the contract that the town has, and I believe that we need to look at more of what the bonds are attached to all these people in town and stay away from the insurance companies.
Thank you, Bill. Todd?
Well, risk assessment is pretty easy from the standpoint that you need to look at all your operations and you can quickly identify where there's risk. We've already seen one with the sewer department. You have to have a yearly review of those operations, and you have to bring those people that are in control of those department heads, and you have to basically go over the basics. Where's the risk to the Hooksett citizens? And then you have to match that risk to the insurance. We've seen this in regards to the LGC, an air position in regards to $10,000 coverage for this $1 million problem. That type of risk assessment is actually quite straightforward, but it needs to be done every year. In regards to finances, it's also easy. You have a certain amount of revenue, you have a certain amount of expenses. You've got to make sure you balance that, and you have to take into consideration the economic climate and put a little bit of a cushion in there. Just analyze, and make a good decision.
Thank you, Todd. Nancy?
So this is probably the biggest challenge of being a counselor, and I often think of what my grandmother always said, that let's not be penny wise and be pound foolish. And what that means is we need to spend our money responsibly, but at the same time not to be so tight with our money that we're wasting it down the line. So I think when we're looking at risk, whether it's how we're setting policy for the town, whether it's how we're spending money, how we're hiring, how we're setting general operation of the town, we need to look at everything logically, obviously, but also in the long term, the short term, and the medium range, and how it's going to affect us at each piece, and how each decision will affect the next time period that we're looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Bob?
I look at risk assessment a lot like I spent 22 years in the Marines, and I had an awful lot of opportunities to look at a lot of risky situations. And I think you have to look at the risk of doing nothing or the risk of doing something. You take the capital improvement plan, there's a lot of good ideas in those plans. One of them this year happened to be about buying a much larger pumper. There's a risk, you have to spend more money, it does impact the tax rate, but then if you look at, well, we have a much bigger tanker to be able to put out fires when we need all that water in that situation. That's a risk analysis of saying, yeah, it's worth spending the money. So I think you have to look at what is the cost of doing nothing and the cost of doing something.
Thank you. Ken?
Risk, I think you know, all our town agencies, the highway department, public works, the fire department, police department, we have to see that they have all the proper tools they need and personnel that they provide the best protection for our people that we can get. You know, we don't have roads that aren't plowed in winter causing unnecessary accidents. Luckily, we have good maintained of our roads. You see a higher presence of police on the west side of Hooksett now. And the fire department, as you mentioned, the new tanker. I mean, I live in an area where there's no hydrants, and another 1,000 gallons of water in a truck is a big difference if there's a fire at your house. And I think those are the things we really have to look at. And thank you.
I agree with a lot of the sentiment that's been echoed up till now. It's about evaluating what's going on. And as the father of an 8-year-old and a 5-year-old, anytime they do something, what could go wrong that's risk assessment. And I think some of those principles can be applied here. As when we look at things, you can't sit back and do nothing, as Bob said. You have to be aware of both the cost and the benefit of the decision you make. Family on my street lost their home because of the inability to get enough water to that scene. Nothing, the fire department did everything in their power to save their home, but it just didn't happen because they didn't have the capability. So that's a risk-reward that's very near and dear to me because they live on my street, they play with my kids. So again, looking at those things, evaluating all the options, and then making a sound business-based decision that benefits everybody here. Thank you.
Thank you, Mike. Nancy, you have the last word.
Last minute, well, I guess assessing risk is much like figuring out from all the different avenues that you can take to get to the end result. For instance, all the pending potential lawsuits that we're going to be looking at, each one is going to have a case-by-case basis, and we're going to have to look at each one differently and figure out all the different angles to it and find the best possible route to solve the cheapest way out for Hooksett. The other part of that question was the finance expenditure. I'm actually a zero-based budget person. I think that it should never start with a big number and then try to figure out where it goes from there. I always think it's a zero and you build it from there. So I'm not a policy changer, but maybe. You're right.
I think this has been an exceptionally informative evening. We got through 8 questions. Everybody was really on the mark from a time standpoint. I thought it went great. And I'd like to thank the candidates for sitting there, responding to questions that they... And I'd certainly like to thank all of you for coming.
I would like to thank our moderator for doing such a wonderful. And before you go, one quick bit of housekeeping. I'm Heather Shumway, I'm the library director. For those of you that don't know me, if you will please fill out a program evaluation as you go. This is actually a library program, and we'd like your feedback. We'd like your feedback how you found out about it, which of course means how we can reach you for future programs. We'd also like to know if you'd like to do this again on an annual basis. Is this something you would like every year, maybe to expand it to the budget committee candidates or in addition to the town council? So we'd like your feedback.
We could do it again before this election because I still have 8 questions.
And I think Mary Farwell deserves a lot of credit. It was her brainchild. And we have food for you at the end.
You know what? Hey, we were wondering why Mark wasn't here. We didn't look far enough.